Hi everyone. So today Salesforce development day 23. Let's see what are we going to learn today. We'll quickly go through the previous session overview and we'll talk about SOQL and SOQL governor limits. What are the governor limits for the SOQL? Ways to invoke the SOQL queries. By using the developer console query editor window, how can we run the SOQL? And what are the use cases, homework quiz we will see. Invoke using the Apex programming. So basically invoking the SOQL using the Apex programming. Static SOQL queries, how to write the static SOQL queries, how to write the dynamic SOQL queries, what is the use case for the static SOQL, and what are the limit classes, where class for how to write a where class for non-parameterized procedure, how to write a where class for parameterized procedure, and then we'll have a conclusion, today's interview question. So quickly, what did we learn in last class?
How to create related records.
How to create related records, yeah. What else? What else we have discussed in the previous sessions?
Then Apex class.
Creating bulk records.
Creating bulk records and how to create a related records. So
Processor and function.
Subprogram.
Parameterized, non-parameterized, iterative, right? So we have seen the last session, we have seen all of those. So today we will talk about the SOQL. So before talking about the SOQL, so let's take a scenario. I have a database table. Okay, so this is a database table. In this database table, I have a account object. Right, so this is database table specifically for the account object. Now we have a certain columns here. Assume that account ID, account name, right, account industry, and account rating. So this is my table, account table, and here we have a different records are available. So in the account table, we have a different records are available. Perfect. So this is my ID, account name, account industry, and then account rating. Now, till yesterday, what we have learned is by using Apex or by using Visual Force or by using the Aura, right? So we are directly inserting the record into the database. Assume that from the Apex, like we have seen how to create a record from the Apex, how to create a related record from the Apex. So what we are doing, we are using the DML command here, insert. I'm using we have it inside the class. So assume that this is the class. So inside this class, we are implementing a method. So inside this, we are implementing a method. Perfect. So this is the class. Inside this class, we have a procedure method. We have seen non-parameterized. Assume that we have a non-parameterized method here. We know how to write a non-parameterized method. So is everybody done with the assignment? Yesterday's assignment is everybody completed? Okay. So how about others?
Still, I'm doing that one, and today it will complete.
Okay. So we have yesterday. How about others?
Yes, ma'am. Done, ma'am.
Okay.
EOD I will completed.
Okay. Whoever is completed, whoever is going to complete it, just send me the email to Samskar ID. Now, once we have inserted, so when I'm executing this class, so this class is written here. In order to execute it, we have to create a object class, right? Object per class. An instance has to be created for the class. Here, I'll be calling the method. And whenever I create an object and whenever I execute a method from anonymous window, what will happen? A new record gets inserted inside the database table. Right? So as soon as I execute that class by creating the object per class in the anonymous window, when I insert is done, that means the record is created in the database table in the account object, because this insert is account record. Now, I wanted to know whether this record is inserted perfectly or not. Basically, I wanted to know whether this record is inserted properly or not. So in order to know that, I need to write some logic, because we first need to cross-verify whether all the data has been correctly inserted or not. So right now what we are checking, in order to do that, just I am checking the acc.id not equal to null. Then I'm printing the system.debug, acc name, like that we are printing. But instead of that, at one time, I need to check whether this record, whatever the record is there, this record, is it inserted properly or not? That means what I am doing here, basically, I wanted to retrieve the data. I wanted to retrieve the data. Retrieve the data from database to Apex. So this one, whatever we are doing from the anonymous window, we are sending back. That means request is going to the, or inserting the data here, inserting the record into the database. Now, by using this, another one, I need to retrieve. So basically, I need to retrieve the data from database to Apex side. So in order to retrieve the data, we use a concept called SOQL. We use a concept called SOQL. So basically, to retrieve the data from database to Apex class, I need to retrieve it to the Apex class. In this Apex class, I need a separate method again here to check whether the data is present in the database. That means whatever the data is there in the database.com, I'm retrieving it from the database to the Apex. So while retrieving, the logic which we use is, in order to retrieve the data, we use the SOQL. SOQL is nothing but Salesforce Object Query Language. Salesforce Object Query Language. By using the Salesforce Object Query Language, we retrieve the data from database.com to the Apex business logic. So that means by using this SOQL query, we call it as a SOQL query. So, okay, so by using these SOQL queries, we can fetch either one data or I can fetch multiple data. So for now, I'm looking for only one. For example, if I want a multiple record, so whatever is exist in the account object, I need multiple data here. I need multiple data. So in that case, I can retrieve multiple data. It doesn't matter whether the one record is needed or all the record is needed. Whether I wanted to retrieve either one record or a multiple records, one or a more number of records from either one object or multiple objects. Either one object or more objects from the Salesforce database, right? So Now here, there are different concepts are here. So for example, I'm retrieving the data by using the SOQL query, So whenever we are trying to implement a logic, or whenever we are planning to write a SOQL query, the SOQL query always starts with keyword called select. Always starts with keyword called select. It has always a keyword is a select keyword. SOQL queries always starts with select keyword. So by using the select keyword, right? So by using the select keyword, we will write a SOQL query. That means my SOQL query starts with a select keyword. So select, and then by using the select, and we need to specify from which table am I retrieving it. From which table am I retrieving it? So select from table. Now here your table name or a object name. Here your table name or object name. This gap I'll talk later. Okay. So like this we will write select, and we have something to enter here from object name. In this case, account. In this case, account, object name or a table name. What are the API name of the object? If it is a custom object, you have to mention like hiring manager is my custom object. In that case, hiring underscore manager underscore C. So we have to mention the API name of the object. Now this is a basic query. This is a basic query. That means what will happen if I write this? I can pull all the records from the account. Select from account object. That means I am going to pull all the records from the account. It is not mentioning that I need this record, or I need this record, I need this record, or I need this record. I'm not mentioning that. What it says, select from a table name, is basically get me everything, whatever is present inside the table. Get me everything, whatever is present inside the table. Now, in case, now if I'm pulling the data, like in real time, in account object, we might have 10,000 records, or we might have a 1 lakh records, or 60,000 records, or something will be there. More records will be there, like 1 lakh records will be there. Now, if I write this simple query, right? If I write this simple query, what will happen? There is a limitation on this. There is a limitation on this. The limitation is you can pull, or you can return maximum of 50,000 records. It can return maximum of 50,000 records. So now in case if you have a 1 lakh records in the account object, we are meeting the Garner limits. SOQL query Garner limit is maximum, it will give the 50,000 records if you write a basic query. So that's the reason what we have is, in order to avoid this kind of a limitations. Now, definitely we do not need a 1 lakh records in the real time. Now in this, I wanted to check only the one where industry equal to bank. I wanted to check the account which has industry equal to banking. Industry equal to banking. In order to check that, we have a separate class called where class. In the query, we have a where class. Where class, what it is going to do? It is going to filter out the records. Instead of you pulling the 1 lakh records, just keep the condition there. What is the condition here? Industry equal to banking. That means from the 1 lakh record, I'm filtering it and pulling only the records which has a industry equal to banking. Like this is a where class. This is a where class. We call it as a where class. Like this, we have another class which is a group by. Group by in a sense, like once you have pulled the data, I wanted to know all the records. Give me how many records are rating hot, how many records are rating cold, how many records are rating warm. If I wanted to group by rating, that means it will group by rating. So that means rating hot, how many records are there? Rating warm, how many records are there? Rating cold, how many records are there? So only group by this and give me the data. Like this, we have a having class. We will see this real having class. And also we have a order by. Order by is basically I'm pulling all the record. But display me the records in a certain order, in ascending order, in the descending order. So for that we have a order by. Now in case if I'm writing, if I'm writing the SOQL query, okay, in this SOQL query, I know that there are multiple records are there where industry equal to banking, but I just need a one record. For that, we have a different class called limit. Okay, for that we have a limit class. Limit, you can mention number of records. How many records you actually wanted to pull? I know that there are multiple records where industry equal to bank, but actually I'm interested only one record. And for example, you wanted to skip some records. In that case, we will use the offset. We'll see each one of them with the example. And also we have a all rows. That means give me all the rows. What are the records are deleted? If I wanted to know all the deleted records. What is this? Okay, so if I wanted to know all the deleted records, so give me all the deleted records, all the rows. And also we have another one for update. So we have a different classes in order to play with the SOQL query. So that means when we are writing a standard, this is the basic. Whenever we are writing, this one is a basic. Whatever select from object is a basic. This we need to write it. After writing this, you need to know which class do you need to use it here. Because I know there is a limitation, only 50,000 records I can pull from the Salesforce whenever we are running that query. So now, definitely in the real time, we will not write this like this query. Okay, along with this query, we will use one of the classes. So SOQL, Salesforce Object Query Language. So by using the SOQL queries, we can fetch either one or a more number of records from one object or more objects from the Salesforce database. We can add one or more users defined in the condition to filter the records. So that's what we have seen. And SOQL query should be prepared by using the select statement. The SOQL query starts with select statement. That means we write syntax is select here between the select and from. Between the select and from. Whatever we have this between the select and from. We give a field name or the API name. What is the field name? What is the API name here? So field name or a field API name. Let's go to the setup. Object. Let's go to the account. Fields and relationship. Now, do you see here? Field name. This is field name. This is also called as a API field. This is also called as a API field. This is also called as a API field name. Never use the field label. Do not use the field label when you are writing the SOQL query. Always use the either field name or a API field name. Okay. So here you need to use the field name or API names of the field. From, you need to mention the object name. This is the syntax. Select API field names from object name. So, and to extend this, we have a different classes like a where condition group by having order by limit, offset, all rows per update. So we have all these things. So we will see all these classes, how to use it, when to use it, what is the scenario to use it, everything we will see. Any questions till now? SOQL. Okay. So let's see the Garner limits. So when we are executing or when we are running the SOQL query, right? How many queries can I write it? Now here I have written one query. Select, here I have written the API field name from object name. So this is my class. Inside my class, I have a method. Okay, and there is another method here. In this, I'm writing the multiple SOQL queries. Multiple SOQL queries. So how many SOQL queries can I write it? So that means when I'm executing this particular method, one execution, within one execution or within one transaction, how many SOQL queries can be expected? Like how many SOQL queries can run? For each transaction, I can run only 100 SOQL queries. 100 SOQL queries. So in case if the user is trying to invoke more than 100 SOQL queries, then we will see the error called system.limit_exception. Too many SOQL queries 101. If developer or anybody who is working on the code, so if they are writing this, if they are writing more SOQL queries, more than 100 SOQL queries, then you will see that system.limit_exception. Too many SOQL queries. This is per transaction for each execution. For each execution, this is the limitation. And this is for both unlimited and addition. So there is no differences here. And each SOQL query can return maximum of 50,000 records. Can return maximum of 50,000 records. So that's the reason we have a couple of best practices for the SOQL. So the best practices is when you are using a SOQL queries, right? Upon using the SOQL queries, do not write the SOQL queries inside the for loop. That means if you are using the for loop or iterative, when you are using the iterative statement, do not write the SOQL queries inside that loop, inside the loop. So that is the basic one. Anybody should know. And the second best practice is do not fetch the unnecessary fields information from the object by using the SOQL query. That means whatever the fields you need it, only write those fields. If in real time, in one object, if you have 100 fields, in SOQL query, do not write 100 field API names. Out of this 100, you might be needed the only 10 or only 5 fields. Only 5 fields you needed. You need the data of 5 fields. So in that case, just use the SOQL query with this 5 fields. Any questions so far? Okay. So SOQL full form?
Salesforce Object Query Language.
Salesforce Object Query Language. By using the SOQL, what can we achieve?
We can retrieve the data from the database.
Right. What is the syntax for SOQL?
Select
Select the field
API or name
from
object.
from object name.
Right. So what are the Garner limits for SOQL?
For each transaction, maximum 100 SOQL
queries.
Okay. Another one.
We should not write queries in for loop.
That is the best practices.
Maximum 50,000 records.
50,000 records we can retrieve at once.
we can return.
Now let's see. Now we have a clarity on the SOQL. Let's see how to invoke. What are the different ways to invoke SOQL queries? So we can invoke the SOQL queries using the developer console. We have a query editor window. And the second one, by using the Apex programming, we can write the SOQL query inside the Apex program. And the third one is by using the workbench tool. We have a separate tool which is called as a workbench. So in the real time, SOQL queries also can be used by using this tool, we will be running the SOQL query. So I'll be explaining that also. So using these three, we can run the SOQL queries. Using these three, we can run the SOQL queries. Now, yes. Any questions?
Ma'am, data loader?
Data loader is, yes, when you are exporting it, that time we will be writing the SOQL queries. And there is another one which we have, which if you know this is a Salesforce inspector. Whatever this you see here, this is a Salesforce inspector. So in the Salesforce inspector also, by using this, you can write the SOQL queries. So total 5 are there. One is developer console using the query editor. Second one is a Apex class. Third one is a workbench. And fourth one is a data loader. And the fifth one is a Salesforce inspector. Okay. So these are the 5 places. Data loader one, when we are discussing the data loader, that time I'll show you the how to write the query inside the data loader. Salesforce inspector, I'll cover it here. Now we will go and see by using the developer console query editor, how can we implement it. So the first of all, let's understand in developer console, when we say query editor, where exactly the query editor. Now, when you open the developer console, you will see this. Okay, this is how you will see. Now, inside this, you have something called here query editor. So you have a different tabs, logs, tests, checkpoints, query editor, view state, progress, problems, everything is there. So here one of the tab is called Query Editor. So by clicking on this Query Editor, you will be writing the SOQL query here. You will be writing the SOQL query here. This is called Query Editor window. And when you execute this, you will see the result on top. You will see the result on top. Let's say, for example, while writing you are writing here, select, you are giving some field name, API field names, and then from object, you are writing it. And when you click on a query, so how to execute a query? Here we have a button called execute button at the bottom. By clicking on the execute button, you will be seeing the result. So when you click on an execute button, in case if there is any error on the SOQL query, so you will see the errors here. This is error window. If there is any errors related to query, then you will see the errors here. And this side, you will know the history, what all queries that you have executed so far. This is the history. What all the queries that you have executed from last couple of hours, right? So it will give the history here. So this is how we will be seeing it. So let me go to the Salesforce developer console. So this is whatever you see here. So whatever you see here, this is a query editor. When you click on a query editor, you have an execute button here. You have an execute button. So when you click on an execute button, the result will be displayed here. In case if there is any error, you will see the error here. And what are the queries that you have run? So you can see the history here. Right? So that is query editor window. Now let's see the navigation. So go to the developer console, expand the tab bar, click on a query editor tab. When you click on the query editor tab, you can write the SOQL query inside the query window. Click on a execute button, view the result inside the result window. Now let's see the use case. Write a SOQL query to fetch the account ID, name, rating, industry, annual, revenue, phone, fax, values from the account object. Right? Now we know how to write a query. So in order to write a query, I need to start with select. Now what all I need? I need ID. I need ID, name, rating, industry, and annual revenue, and phone, and fax. That's all. From my object name is account. Object name is account. Now here, so whatever this select, between the select and from, these all are field names, API field names. From, I'm giving here object name. From, I'm giving here object name. Right? So let me write the same thing in the so select. I need ID, comma, name, comma, rating, comma. So these all are standard fields. So that's the reason there is no underscore C. Industry, comma, annual revenue, comma, phone, comma, fax. Now I'm done with all the field API names from account. Now I need to click on a execute. If I click on a execute, I can see the result here. I can see the result. Now, in the result, it will give you what is the query that you have run. It will give you the what is the query that you have run and what is the query result. So this is my query result. How many number of rows it is written? 43 rows it is written. 43 rows it is written. And once you run the query, you will see something new buttons here, which is a query grid, which is query grid. So this query grid is in case if you want to delete a specific record here. Okay, in case if you wanted to specific record, let's say that CO3434555. So this record is there. I wanted to delete this record. So select this, click on it, delete. Delete one row from the account. Here the count is 43. Click on S. And once it is deleted, the count is not updated. So what you have to do, you have to refresh it. Now the count is updated to 42, right? So now you cannot see that account. If you go to the account and if you click on all the accounts here, right? The C starts with C, you cannot see that record. You cannot see the record. The record is deleted. So what I'm doing, I'm simply selecting this. Now I have a S2. So let me open S2 here also. So I have this S2. Okay, now I'm doing S2, highlight this, click on a delete row, click on the delete. Perfect. Now let's refresh this. The account might have deleted. Right, so account is deleted now, but the account is not updated. Just click on a refresh. So it is refreshed. Now, in case if you wanted to modify something, now here it says that N account 1. Now I wanted to change this to 1, 2, 3, 4. So click on that, change it, click on a save. Click on save. So what will happen? The record gets saved. So wherever you see account N account, it starts with N account 1. Right, so it is updated 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is for if you wanted to update it. Now, for example, if you wanted to insert a record, right? So I'll give here new 1, 2, 3, 4 rating 1. That's all. I'll not give anything. Now click on save. What happened? The ID got created. How many records are there? 42 records are there. Right? This is for insert, is to insert a new record, and then you have to click on a save rows. So it will be, you can able to create a record from the query also. You can create a record from the query also. Now here, accessing Salesforce. So this is the another one, accessing Salesforce. So when you click on this is a query grid. This side, the left side is a query grid, and the right side, whatever you see here, this is accessing Salesforce. You are in developer console, right? You ran a query. Okay, but after running the query, you remember something. So I need to create a new record. So either you can create a new record just by clicking on here, insert row. In case if there is it's not able to save it because of some other mandatory fields. Now what you wanted to go? So I wanted to go to the Salesforce and create a new record. So click on this, create a new record. So what it will do, it will take you to the Salesforce, and then you can create a new account here. Now in case if you wanted to open detail page, now I have selected here new 1, 2, 3, 1, 4, open detail page. So what will happen? It will take you to the Salesforce and it will open that particular account. Open that particular account. New 1, 2, 3. In case if you wanted to edit page. No, I need this as the edit page. If you click on this edit page, it will take you to the edit page. Right, so that particular. So that means from the developer console, if you wanted to directly jump. So what we will do, we will usually copy this ID and we will go to the Salesforce and we will enter this ID in the 18-digit ID here, and then we will try to make changes. But instead of that, now you know which record here it is there. Quickly, I wanted to go to the Salesforce and check this record, how it is looking. Then go to the click on open detail page so that you can directly go to the Salesforce. Fine. So this is how we will be writing it. So these all are field names, API field names. This is field name or API field name from what you are doing it object. What are the object name is there? Mentioning the object name. Object name. Now let me go back. So this is what we have written. Select ID, name, rating, industry, annual revenue, phone, fax from account. Let's see the another use case. Write a SOQL query to fetch all the records from the object. Now you tell me, how can I implement this? How can I write the SOQL query?
Select
Select
ID,
Lead
Lead ID,
last name,
first name,
first name,
last name,
name, last name,
company,
company,
status,
status, email,
mail,
phone,
phone,
fax,
fax,
industry, rating,
rating,
annual revenue from
from
lead.
lead.
from
lead.
From lead. Right, so let's go ahead and execute this.
And all these API names are case sensitive. It should be the same, like exactly matching.
No, Apex is not case sensitive. That's okay. So for example, I'll show you that. Let's execute this. Perfect. All the lead records are coming. Now let's say here I'm giving here small I. Okay, and rating small r I'm giving. Annual small a. Annual revenue small. We can't execute. Right? Apex is in case sensitive. But do not write like this, because easily somebody can identify that. Because by writing the field name itself, we can know that whether the person is experienced person or not.
Yeah.
Okay, so right now the leads are, it's coming total 252 records, showing total 252 records. And this is the query which I have run second time. And this is the third time the lead got executed with a small letter. And this is with the proper API name. This got executed 252. Right, it is giving me ID, first name, last name, company status, email, phone, fax, industry, rating, annual revenue. Right, everything I got it. Total 252 records are there in the system. Right, so homework. Write an SOQL query to fetch all the case records from the object. Fields are status, case number, priority, type, reason, origin, subject. Now, few fields I gave you with the small letters. So you should be checking that. So write an SOQL query to fetch all the user records from we have a user record, right? So from the user record, fetch all the records: ID, first name, last name, email, title, department, division, username, is active. Is active also, there is a field called is active. Third one, write a SOQL query to fetch all email templates. All email template records from the object, and the fields are ID, name, description, subject, body, template. Now, how you will get this email template object records? How you will get it this? So if you go to the object manager, if you search here email templates, do you see anything email template here? Email message is there, list email is there, right? So in that scenario, always whenever you are writing the SOQL query, do not go to the object manager. Always go to the file.
Open the resource.
File, and then click on object. And here check what is the entities that you want. So in this case, the scenario is email templates. So search here email. So when you are searching here email, so you will see the object called email templates. File, do not click on an open resource. When you click on an open resource, what will happen? It will open in this format. Okay, instead of this, open is a better, because you can at least first you can filter out the entity type. So filter out the entity type. So entity type should be the object, and then type here email template. So when you click on, I can see here email template, click on a open. Now you can see all the fields what are exist for the email template. In our scenario, we have an ID, name, description, subject, body, template type. ID, name, body, template type, template style. So we have a different things. Those all are already available here. Now the fourth one is write a SOQL query for all the fetch all hiring manager records. ID, name, and we have a fields, contact number, email address, location. So here we need to use the field name or a API field name, contact number. So contact underscore number underscore underscore C, it's a custom field. And the fifth one, write in a SOQL query to fetch all position records from the object: ID, location, number of vacancies, open date, milestone date, HR, email ID, hiring manager. So these are the fields which are already available. If you have not created, create it. Write in a SOQL query to fetch all public groups and queue records from the object. Now here, in this scenario, the assignment is fetch all public groups and queue records. Where can we see all public groups and queue records? Which object can we see?
For a queue group object.
Group object. So if you go to the file, open, object, search here group. Select this group, click on open, and highlight this ID, name, developer name, related ID, type, email. Just click on a query so that your query is built. I just highlighted this and clicked on a query so that what will happen, query is built. Now I can directly execute it. Now, in this case, I see that type is going to tell me whether it is a queue or whether it is a public group, whether it is a role, right? So this is going to tell me the different things. So for the sixth one, you will be able to get the output by using the object called group. Now write in a SOQL query to fetch all profile records from the object. So you can choose whatever the fields that we have in the profile records, profile object, fetch all of those. Now question, what are the different ways to invoke SOQL queries?
5 ways. So developer console.
Developer console.
Workbench.
Apex,
Developer console, Apex programming,
Apex.
workbench tool,
workbench,
data
tool,
loader,
data loader,
Salesforce,
inspector.
Right.
Data loader.
And in developer console, where should we write the SOQL query?
in
Query
console.
editor. Query it.
Query editor.
In query editor. So let's see the second one, invoke using the Apex programming. Now we have understood the first one, how to invoke the query, how to run the query in the query editor developer console. This is clear. Now, how to invoke a SOQL query using the Apex programming. Using the Apex programming, how can we invoke it? So let's go ahead and see. So till last class, we have written the Apex class and we know how to write a non-parameterized procedure, how to write a procedure, a parameterized procedure. Now, as a part of normal Apex program, we can write a SOQL query. We can write a SOQL query, but the SOQL query is divided into two types. That means you can implement a SOQL query in Apex programming two ways. Two ways you can implement it. One is static SOQL queries, and the second one is dynamic SOQL queries. First one is static SOQL queries, and second one is a dynamic SOQL query. That means either you can implement a SOQL in a static or you can implement a SOQL in dynamic way. When I say static SOQL query, so static SOQL query is nothing but, that means it is a fixed one. Static is nothing but a fixed query. That means once you have written some query, you cannot make any changes after that. During the runtime, we cannot modify that query anything. So once I have written the query, for example, I have written the query, select ID, name from account. So if I have written this query, it's a fixed one. I cannot change during the runtime. I cannot change. That means if I wanted to, during the runtime, if I wanted to add another field here, industry, I cannot change it. It's a fixed one. So SOQL, static SOQL is nothing but fixed query. So in this approach, the SOQL queries cannot be includes any column and conditions at runtime. So during the runtime, I cannot make any changes to the SOQL query. So, but how to write this SOQL query in the Apex? Upon preparing the query, we have to specify the required columns and conditions. So you need to, whenever you are writing the query, you decide that time only. Whenever you are implementing the Apex class, that time developer decides what is the fields that I needed, what is the condition that I need to put it. Because during the runtime, this query doesn't change anything. Whatever the developer has written in the Apex class, it will be the same class. Now, syntax. See, whenever we are executing the query from the query editor, we are simply writing the query here, right? But when I write the same query in the Apex class, how can I write this static SOQL query? How can I write it? So by writing this, system will not understand. This is whatever we have written here. This is just for query editor. When we write this line, in the query editor, system will understand. But in order to make the Apex to understand this is a query editor, you need to run this query. In order to understand the system, what we have to do is we have to use before the select keyword, we have to use this, and after the when you end the query, you need to add this square brackets. Starting of the select, start the square bracket, end of the query, you need to put end square bracket, end square bracket. So this is normal we are writing. Select field API name from object name. This is normally we write it in the query editor. But in order to implement the static SOQL queries, we need to put square bracket before the select and square bracket after the when you are ending the query. So by using this, so that we can system will understand, okay, this is the static SOQL query. So when this is there, Salesforce automatically executed. Nobody should be executing. Right now, what I'm doing it, I'm writing here, then I'm clicking on the execute button here. When I click on a execute button, then only the query gets executed here. If I do not write it, so for example, I have written this account, okay? So let me close all this. So I have written this query. In order to execute this, simply by writing this query, I'll not get the output. I need to perform some action. If I perform an action, then I'll get the result, because somebody has to go and get me the data from database.com. Who will be doing that? If I click on an execute button, what the execute button does, execute button, as soon as I click on it, it will go to the database.com and it will check which table it is there. It will go and search for that particular table and give me the result back. So these all things are happening behind the clicking on button. Now, if I click on execute button, it will go here and bring me the data to the result window. Now, by clicking on this, I'm performing on-click action. I'm performing on-click of this button action. It is giving me the data. But when I'm writing inside the Apex class, is, we know that it's just a blueprint. But by writing inside the Apex class, how can I tell the system that, okay, this is the static SOQL query. You need to execute this from the backend. So when I execute the class, when I run the class from the anonymous window by creating the object for the class, and when I execute it, now Salesforce has to do some kind of a on-click action by taking this query, and they will run the query. Salesforce is going to run the query. So just by adding this, so you need to just add the square bracket before the select square bracket. Once you end with the query, then add the end square bracket. So by adding this, we can say that it's a static SOQL query. So example, square bracket, select ID, name, rating, industry, annual revenue from account, and then close square bracket. Close the square bracket. Now, static SOQL queries will be executed automatically by default. That means when you are running the class, by creating the object, when you are running the class, automatically Salesforce is taken care to execute this SOQL query. You need not to do anything. So let's take a scenario. Now assume that I have a database here. Right, this is my database. Inside this, I have a account ID, account name, account rating, let's say industry, and annual revenue. So this is my account ID. This is my name, account name. And then I have a rating and industry. This field is industry. And then this is annual revenue. Annual revenue. Now in this ID, so I'll just give 001, some number I'm giving here, name, let's say Nick, rating, I'll just say hot, or industry, let's say banking, and annual revenue, some 45 lakhs. Okay. Now, this is my table. This is my table. Now, I'm writing a SOQL query inside the Apex class. I'm writing the SOQL query inside my Apex class. So how can I write it? Select ID, comma, select ID, comma, name, comma, what else we have? Rating, comma, industry, comma, annual revenue from account. I'm pulling it from the account. Where I'm writing this SOQL query, this is fine if I'm writing this query in the query editor. But if I'm writing in the Apex class, then we need to add it here. Square brackets, we need to add it. Now, when we have written this, okay, this class, who are the one clicking on the button here in the query editor, I'm clicking on a on-click button, execute. But when I execute the Apex class, the on-click button is done by the Salesforce automatically. So what will happen when it is executed? It will pull the records, whatever the records are there. It will pull the ID, the name, rating, and the industry, and annual revenue, everything it will pull. Okay, now I know that there is only one record is there. There is only one record. Only one record is there. Possible that there are multiple records are there. So when I'm running this query, I need to store it into somewhere, right? In Apex, when we are writing it, we need to store it. I need to, what are the output I'm getting here, that output should be assigned to some variable. That output is assigned to some variable. So the assignment, how it is going to happen? So there are two ways which can be happen. The one is case one, if the SOQL query returns only one record. There are scenarios in the real time, sometimes SOQL query returns only one record. Case two is SOQL query returns multiple records. Two ways we can get it. One is SOQL query returns only one record. SOQL query returns multiple records. Now let's see when it is returning the only one record, what will happen, how I am going to store the record. So for example, in this case, it is retrieving only one record because in the database, I have only one record is there. So it is getting me the one record. When I receive this record, when I receive the data, I need to store this data into some variable. So in order to store the single record data, so this object is, which object data it is pulling? Account object data it is pulling. So that means the data type which I need to use is account. Account ACC equal to I need equal to select ID, comma, name, comma, rating, comma, industry, annual. So this entire query. So if I'm getting a one record, I know that every time this query is going to return me only one record. In that case, we have to store entire data into the one account. So what will happen if I say here account ACC? This can hold only one record. Is account ACC can hold only one record. The collection of fields, but one record it will hold. It will not hold the more records. Now I can check if ACC.id not equal to null, then I can go and print the values. So let's say system.debug. Now I can print ACC.id. Now here it is only one record. So that's the reason I'm directly using the ACC.id. And also I can print system.debug ACC.name. Like this, I can print whatever the fields that I have, all those fields I can print it here. All those fields I can print here. So this is case 1 scenario. This is case 1. In the case 1, we are going to get only one record. SOQL query is returning one record. When SOQL query, so this who will be executing, this is executed by the Salesforce. So whatever this has written, the static SOQL query, this is executed by Salesforce. Once the Salesforce is executed, whatever the values it is returning, right? So it will return some values. Whenever it returns some values, I need to store this return values into one variable. What type of a variable it is? It should be matching with whatever the object you are querying it, that the same object data type should be there. Any questions here?
Same governor limits applicable here also.
Yes.
What is the transaction in SQL query? One transaction is having maximum 100, right?
Yeah. One transaction is nothing but one execution. That means if you are executing, for example, you are executing some big logic. Okay, there is some big logic, you are executing it. So this logic execution, sometimes what happens is, this logic will be divided into executing multiple transactions. That means one execution. So this is one execution which is happened right now. Okay, after some time, again, one more execution which will happen. So whatever in the one execution is there. So always governor limits will apply into one execution. That means one record that gets created. You see here in the debug logs. So if you see here logs, this is one transaction.
Okay.
This is one transaction. If I do anything here, for example, I'm changing this. Let's go ahead and modify something here. Account number 5. Click on save button. Account, click on new record. Every time the record, that is a log is created, right? Every time whenever the log is created, each log is called as a one transaction. So for standard one, it will not create. So whenever we are running the custom one, so the each log is nothing but a one transaction.
Okay. Can we guess this logic will have this transaction will cross the governor limits before writing the query itself?
You can, yes, definitely you can. We'll see that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So in case 1, if the SOQL query returns only one record as a result, then we have to store the result by defining the variable of the associated type. That means if you are writing the static SOQL query, that static SOQL query should be assigned. Whatever the return value will be there, the return value will be assigned to the ACC. So if ACC ID is not equal to null, then we are printing all the accounts. So this is the static SOQL query. Now case 2 is when it is returning the multiple records. That means I have, so let's say that, for example, okay, so I have a few more records here. I have few more records. So this is one, and this is okay. Now here I have assume that I have a 2 records 001, and let's say here let's take name son, rating warm, and industry, let's take finance, and let's say some 70, let's say 7 lakhs, right? So 7 lakhs. Now here I have more records, right? Writing the query does not change. Writing the query does not change. You have to write the same query. So this is the same query that we have to write it. Once this query is executed, that means Salesforce, once it is executed, now it is returning more records. When it returns the more records, account ACC cannot hold more records. Account, whatever we have written previously, this does not hold more records. If I wanted to store the values, the collection of values, which one do we have to use it? If I wanted to store more data into a variable, which type of data type which we have to use it?
Collection data type, list or
Collection data type, we have to use it. Always use the list. Always use the list, because list can hold multiple
data.
and
Records.
records. Yes, this can hold multiple records. Anybody has any questions into the case 1 and case 2 till this point? Storing the records. In case 1, when we are returning the single record, we are just storing into account ACC. When we have more records, it is a list account. I'm using the collection here, which is a list account, and I can say that ACC list. So let's say list account ACC list. I'm using the ACC list, which is holding the multiple records. Now, this is collection. It's storing the multiple records. Now I cannot use this if ACC.id not equal to none. In this case, it's a list, right? For list, how can I check whether it is empty or not? How can we check?
ACC list dot is null.
Is empty.
If condition.
we have to use the exclamation
ACC list dot
ACC list dot is M.
is M.
So this is the condition which we have to check it. This is for the list. Now inside this, can I print system.debug ACC list dot ID or ACC list dot name? Can I print this? Can I print this? Directly, can I print ACC list dot name? We cannot print because system will get confused when I say ACC list dot name, because right now ACC list is containing the multiple records. So system will get confused. Which name do you want? There is a two names are here, Nick and Sun. So both are different. There are two records are there. So system doesn't know that which one you are asking me to print. So it will not work. It will fail. If you execute this, it is going to throw an error. Now, first you need to get single one by one record from the multiple records. How can I get the single record from the multiple records? What do I need to do? If I have to look through the each one of them.
Iterative process.
Iterative.
So we need to use for loop.
For loop.
So far we have seen the integer a equal to 0 or a less than 10, a plus plus, like this we have seen. Like this we have seen. Right? So, but in this case, I do not need a here. Why do I need a here? I do not need it. I need to loop through the ACC list. So this is not required for me. This is not required. What I'm interested, I need to loop through the ACC list. But how it is going to loop through? Now this is a collection. Which one I'm looping it here? Which records I'm looping? Which records am I looping? Account. So it has to be account. And then you have to give a name here, ACC, and then colon. So the right side should be your list. Left side should be your data type. For this list, whatever the data type is there, you have to use that data type. And then give a name to it, colon. Now inside this, now you can print system.debug ACC.name. Now it is going to print me the single record. Now it is going to print the single record. Is that clear, this line, everybody? Because directly I cannot print the values of list collection. Whatever the collection is there, I cannot print directly. We have to loop through this collection. In order to loop through that, we have to use the for loop. Within the for loop, right side you need to use which of the collection. Which collection do I need to loop? So right side, it should be that collection. And the left side, what is the data type that I have used? So that should be the left side. And in between, you need to give a name to it because this name is going to be used inside the for loop. Then after that, you have to write it 2 columns here. You have to write a column there. Any questions here? Okay. So case 2 is if SOQL is returning multiple records, more than one records as a result, then we have to store the result by defining a list collection of the associated type. We always have to use the list. Syntax is list, S object data type, then you give a what are the object name or a variable name, and then SOQL query which returns the multiple records, you have to write it into the square bracket. You have to write it into the square bracket. Example, list of accounts equal to open square bracket, select ID, name, rating from account. Then I need to check whether this particular one is empty or not. So if exclamation list accounts dot is empty, then go inside and loop through this list. So in order to loop through this list, use this, whatever the collection name is there, use here, and whatever the data type is there, use it in the left side, and give whatever the name is there, just give some name here. You can give any name here. So for now, I have given a ACC, and then put a colon there. And inside that, we can, by using the new variable or a new object name dot, you need to use whatever the field that you wanted to print it. Now, that is a static SOQL queries. Static SOQL query can be written one record or a multiple record. Now, if you have a question that when should I need to use this? When should I need to use this? I don't know whether the SOQL query might return more than one record or more than or it might return one record. I don't know that. How will I decide that whether I should be using this or this? If you don't know, then better go for this. If you don't know real time, I don't know how many records it is going to return, whether it might return 1, it might return 100 records, it might return 10 records. If you don't know that, just go for this. Right? Now, moving on to the dynamic SOQL queries. So in this approach, dynamic SOQL query is nothing but during the runtime, we can supply what are the fields that I need to query, what is the condition that I need to query, what is the condition that I need to apply. So static is nothing but a fixed, which I have to simply write select ID, name, select ID, name from account. So this is static one, and in here we have to use the square bracket. So this is the static SOQL. Now dynamic query is nothing but whatever you see here fields, right? These fields or these columns, I can pass these columns during the runtime. During the runtime, I can pass this. So either fields or a condition, I can pass during the runtime. How we are going to do during the runtime? That means developer will not be deciding here ID, name. No, they will not be giving the anything here. They will simply write select and here some name they will give, which is dynamically updates from account. So during the runtime, we can supply the columns conditions to the SOQL query dynamically at runtime based on the need. Now we need to store dynamic SOQL query inside the string. Now static, we are storing the query inside the square bracket. Whereas dynamic SOQL query, we need to store it inside the string. Like a string, variable name, whatever the SOQL query is there, that needs to be written as a string. Now example, string account query equal to, in single quote, you need to write a query here. You need to write a query. Now when you write this in the string, right? When you write this in the single quote, in dynamic query, you have to use a separate method. You need to, in order to hit the execute button, you need to use the database.query. You need to use the database.query. By using the database.query, what will happen? You are clicking on the execute button. Now here you are clicking on execute button, right? In the static SOQL query, you are just mentioning here square brackets. That's it. When you mention here square brackets, system will take care. But in the dynamic query, you need to write some logic in order to execute it. What is the logic? You need to write database.query. Inside this query, you need to pass the whatever the variable name is there, you need to pass it here. So by writing this logic, then only the query gets executed. So example, list of account, and we have a list of accounts equal to, you need to write database.query accounts query. So that means you have written here some query. So here string query accounts query equal to string accounts query equal to, in single quote you are writing the select ID comma name comma rating from account, and this accounts query you are passing inside the database.query, you are passing it here. So by running this line, then only you are going to execute that particular query. So that means developer is running the query from the Apex here. Now same thing, if not list account dot is empty, then we have to loop through this list of the account, and inside that we have to print the values. Any question on static SOQL queries, dynamic SOQL queries? We will see practically how to do that, but theoretical, is it clear?
So it will fetch the random records. There is no condition, right?
Right. It's a random queries, random record. When I say here, we are not mentioning that give me 2 records or give me 3 records. We are writing the entire query, right? Select a field from account. That means pull everything from the database on this object. We are not specifying anything there.
Yes.
So what are the different ways to invoke the SOQL queries in Apex?
Static and dynamic.
Static and dynamic. Syntax for static SOQL query?
By using 2 ways, like a list and one more. This one is we have directly we have to implement within the brackets reference variable account ACC, like reference variable in square brackets we have to return query. In case 2 we have to implement with the list by
Right.
using list.
Is that clear for everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now next one is syntax for dynamic SOQL query.
String
String
variable
SOQL
name
query.
like whatever SOQL by using string.
How to execute the dynamic query?
Using for loop.
Now how to execute the dynamic query?
Database.query.
Database dot.
Query.
So we have to use database.query. Inside this, we need to pass what are the list of the accounts are there. We need to pass it here. So just by writing this database.query only, we can execute the list of account. The query gets executed. Now let's see the use case for static SOQL. Write an Apex program to fetch all accounts records from the object and represent on the debug log file. That means get all the records from the object. Whatever the records are there, get everything and show me in the debug log. So that means I need to implement a Apex program here. I need to implement a Apex program. So let me open the developer console, file, new, Apex class, account, data helper. Now, how to write a method here? Non-parameterized procedure.
Public void
Public void account data helper.
Let
method.
me use the static void and
Method
method get all account records. This is my method. Now what they are telling scenario is fetch all the accounts records from the object. This is a static SOQL. So how to write a static SOQL?
List by using list.
So let's write the SOQL query first.
Select ID, comma name, data,
From account.
revenue,
Industry,
annual revenue,
okay. From
account.
this is the static SOQL query. Now I need to store this. Whatever the return value is there, I need to store it. How can I store it?
By using
Account
account.
AC.
List of account.
Because I don't know. Right now, what is happening? I have not given any condition there. It is going to give me all the records. So account list equal to this. This is my query. Now, what I'll do is I'll print whatever the output is there. System.debug. Let's say that the number of records ACC list I just need a size of this. How many records are there? Now, how to look through the ACC list?
Account is a list is empty or not. First we have to check.
If first we need to check list is empty or not.
Then system.debug.
Can I print directly ACC list.name?
No, ma'am.
No.
No.
One
For
variable.
Return loop.
For
For loop.
For right now account ACC
ACC.
Colon. Yeah.
Now system dot.
system.debug.
ACC dot.
ACC dot
CC dot.
Account names. Plus ACC.
Dot name. Like this, I can print industry rating, annual revenue. Annual revenue. Perfect. Let's say. Now we are done with executing. We are done with the class, right? We have just created the class. Now I need to execute this particular method. How can I execute it?
anonymous window. Class name dot method name.
Dot. I can
Method name.
directly use the method name. Let's highlight this, execute the highlighted one. Right, it is printing everything. Okay, so let me, in order to divide this, what I'll do is So right now, everything is printing, but everything is printing. There is no different, like it is printing 41 records or 42 records. In order to differentiate each row, I'm just adding this. Because right now I cannot differentiate where is the first record, where is the second record. There are 43 records are there. So now I'll execute again. Okay. So till this point, one record, and then second record, third record, fourth record, fifth record, sixth record. Like this, 43 rows, 43 records, it has printed in the debug log. Now in the debug log, I can see here SOQL statement, SOQL queries. So during the development, if I'm writing some logic, one way is to know whether I'm hitting the governor limits or not. You just in your sandbox or wherever you are implementing, just run that program and see how many queries gets executed. Out of number of queries executed, out of 100, how many? Like a number of queries rows returned, like we have a 50,000 is the limit. Out of 50,000, how many rows it is written? 43 rows it is written. So definitely before pushing your logic to the production, one of the way is to test whether it is hitting the limits or not. So by running by executing this particular thing, you can know that how many queries are executed. Number of rows, it is possible that production has a more rows, and it is possible that your sandbox has a less rows. So in that case, you can just cross verify that in case if I have more records, what I can do. Otherwise, in the production, you can run one query. In the production, go to the query editor, just run the same query. Whatever the query is written in the 43 records. Copy that record, go to the production, and what you can do is you can execute that in the production from the query editor. You will see how many total records are there. How many total records are there. So if you, instead of seeing the entire records, you just need a count. You just need a count of it. In case if you just need a count of it, just run this select count of ID. Don't give any, you can give any field, but ID is the better because ID is a unique count of ID from the account. Now you can see that how many actual records in the production. Now, if I push this particular record, the one which I have implemented, if I push that particular record, does it hitting the Garner limits or not? Will it be going to hit the Garner limits or not? You can cross verify by running this query in the production. That is the one way. Clear? Any questions on this program? So description, author, created date, modified date, last modified date. Description, account, data, related, class, author, Salesforce, and created date is today 16/03/2023. Similarly, we need this for the method. Get all account records from database. from database. Now this is static SOQL query. I'm getting the static SOQL query, storing into ACC list, and then using the for loop here. First, I'm checking whether the ACC list is empty or not. Then I'm looping through the ACC list, and then I'm going to the account. I'm looping through the account, printing the one by one record. Now homework, write an Apex program to fetch all the lead records from the object and represent on the debug log file. Second one, write an Apex program to fetch all the hiring manager records from the object and represent on the debug log file. Write an Apex program to fetch all the user records from object and represent on the debug log. So these are the 3 homework for static SOQL. Now let's see one more use case here. Write an Apex program to fetch all contact records from the object and represent into the debug log. Now here, okay, let me create another class here. So this time we are going to pull the contact records. So contact data helper. Now let's add description. Contact data related. Then we have a method. And this time get all contact records from database. Yes. What do I need to write it here? I need to get all the contact records. How can we write
So
the
list of contact.
List of contact.
List of contact.
Select.
Can I write directly?
No, method first. Public.
We have to. Public.
Method public
Static
Static
void.
void
void.
Get
Contact
all.
data.
Get all
These
contact.
are all contact records.
method name.
Okay.
List
List contact.
contact
Contacts.
On
object
Con list.
reference. Then
select
select
Select.
ID.
ID,
Contact.
comma, first name,
Last
last name,
Last name.
Last name.
phone,
From contact.
from contact.
Contact.
Okay. Next.
System dot
System dot debug.
number of
The size.
Contact.
Yes.
Number of contacts.
number of records plus out reference name, contact list,
Dot size.
dot size. We have to mention.
Okay.
Then
If-
is this empty or not? We
If
have to check. Is not
Contact
Con list.
on
empty.
list.
On list is
Is
empty.
dot is empty.
Is empty.
Then we have
For-
to check
for-
iteration for loop
For
for contact
contact.
con
First to con list.
reference variable contact.
Con list.
Then system dot debug
System dot debug. Contact. Contact
contact ID name.
name is plus
Concatenation.
plus
Then
con name.
con
Con dot name. First name.
So what I'll do is I'll print the contact name here, both the names.
plus con dot
On dot last name.
last name.
And then we have phone number.
phone.
This is done. Okay. Now, if I execute it, it is going to print me all the contacts. That is perfectly fine. Now, once again, this is a static SOQL. This is static SOQL, and it is storing into the here, right? It is storing into the one of the variable called collection list variable. And this collection list variable I'm passing here. This collection list variable I'm passing here. So that means I'm right. If you are saying, if you think that, can I combine this line and this for loop? I don't want to write separately the SOQL query. I don't want to write the separate SOQL query and this. Basically, I'm storing the value to this, and this value only I'm referring here. This value only I'm referring here. Now, instead of writing into two lines, can I merge these two lines? Yes, you can
Yes.
merge two lines. So what you are going to do is just copy this. Instead of contact list, place it here. Instead of contact list, place it here. So you do not need this logic. You do not need this logic. That's it. Now, if I run this, what will happen? Let's go and see. And then I'm using the get all contact. And let's go ahead and execute this. Now it is printing me 139 lines. Now you might be asking a question, if I write SOQL query, within the for loop, that is in for loop, I'm not writing inside it, I'm writing within for loop. So when I write a SOQL query here, will it not be executing the SOQL query every time? Will it not be executing the SOQL query every time? Like first it will come and it will print. Then again it will go to the for loop. Again it has to be executed and it is going to print. Is that so? It is going to execute multiple times SOQL queries. Now let's go ahead and see. It is going to execute only one time. SOQL queries are executed only one time. Though you are writing it here or you are writing it outside, what will happen here is, if you are writing it here, first this for loop, execute this SOQL query. Execute this SOQL query. First it will, this is the first step, it is going to execute the SOQL query and it will return the value. That value will be stored into the one temporary at the back end. First, it will execute this SOQL query. It will store this into one temporary. And this temporary is going to provide this CON. That means first time it will go to the temporary and check, because this temporary right now have a multiple records. Okay, it will not check this SOQL query. So that means initially how the code we used to write is, we used to write initially the code like this. Initially, we used to write a code like this. That means first we used to query the record and store it into acc.list, and then we used to check is empty, then we used to pass it to for loop, and then we used to write it like this. But later, Salesforce has made a lot of modification there. So they are saying that you don't write separately this list. Don't write it. I'll take care of it. If you write it here itself, I'll take care of it. But if you have a question that maybe SOQL query is going to run multiple times, no, SOQL query is going to run only one time. When it runs, only first time it is get executed, it stores into the data in the temporary, temporary variable, all the records stored into the temporary variable, and this temporary will be passing the values to con. So first time it will execute, and again everything get executed, it will go to the con, and then con will go back to the temporary variable, and this temporary will be providing the next record to the con, and con again will execute the records. Con again will execute the records. So that's how we can minimize our code. So you will see few developers in the real time. Either they will be writing the logic like this, list of account ACC list, and then checking the empty, then checking the for loop, or few developers are directly writing the SOQL query here. Few developers writing the SOQL query here. Now, let me give you one scenario. Let's go to the...
In the first case, if statement is also not required, right? It is not a mandate.
It's not required if statement. Now let's take a patience. Now here I have a one record, I'll delete the record. Okay. Now in this case, what will happen? Now let me write the logic here. When I do not have get patients record, all patients, let's go to the object. So when I do not have a record, so this is my API name of the object. So I'll use that. And what are the fields which we have here? Just the name. So I'll use name. Perfect. Here I need to change the patients. Okay, that should be fine. On dot name. Let me change this also. Pat.name, pat.id. Now in this case, what will happen if I do not have a record? In case if I do not have a record, will this be able to handle? Because here we are checking whether is empty. If it is not empty, then only go inside and check the for loop, then get it. So this is the safest one. This is safe because though it is a 0 records, I'll check this condition. If it is really having the data, then I'll go inside and I'll look through it. Right now, I do not have any records. Now, if I run this record, executed, there are 0 records. I do not have any record. Now, if I execute this, debug, and contact data helper, get all patients data, execute the highlighted one. It's not breaking anything. If that doesn't give, if it is not returning, because it will not go inside the for loop. When you are executing this logic, it will not go to the for loop execution. When the cursor will come here, when the cursor is reached here, first it is checked what is my right side value. If my right side value is a SOQL query, then execute the SOQL query, then give me the temporary variable. If the temporary variable size is 0, then pass that to here saying that it's a 0. Don't go inside it. So who will be taking care of it? The Salesforce is doing that. Salesforce is doing that. So at least 3 to 4 lines of code, they have reduced it. Here? Any questions here till?
Ma'am, it is best practices for real time, ma'am.
Sorry?
Which is best practices, ma'am? Outside list is best, like are in for loop.
Both
Yeah,
are
this one.
same. Both are same because if you observe the limits, either you run the other one or this one, like this is right now I have run this. What you say SOQL query is 1 out of 100. Now if I run this, if I run the first one, execute the highlighted one, it says the 1 out of 100. Now, if there is a scenario, let's see this output. Okay, here also it says that SOQL query is 1 out of 100. Here also 1 out of 100. So in terms of Garner limits, it doesn't impact anything. Both are same. But in case if you have the thought, this SOQL query might change, right? This SOQL query might change or something might be happen. Now these fields might be the more, right? So in that case, if you want, you can use this. There is no harm in it. But if already Salesforce is doing that, why to use the unnecessary code here, unnecessary lines of code? So I can reduce at least 3-4 lines of code, I can reduce it.
Ma'am, but if condition is mandatory here, sometimes it will get null point exception.
That's what I shown you. Right now, I do not have any records. So null pointer exception here, I'm getting the 0 records. It will not throw any error. Who is handling that? Salesforce is handling it. Right now, in the patients, I do not have any record here. There are no records.
Yeah.
So which Salesforce is handling that?
That time it will hit the corner limit, will show the error. If this scenario, we don't have any patient records, then how it will be processed?
Okay. Let me execute this again, get all patients.
Ma'am, we can use if and condition in for loop.
Why we need a if condition inside the for loop? See, for loop, it will go inside the for loop. When you have this right side data is more than 0 or more than null, then only it will go inside. Otherwise, it will not go inside. It does not even touch here.
That means in for loop the if condition is satisfied.
Yes, it is checking the if condition. So that's the reason I'm getting the output as a rows 0. It's not giving the null pointer exception here.
Ma'am, this scenario, okay, fine, ma'am. If you want to do any DML operation like insert or any update like that, in that time, what will? How can it?
If you are doing the DML operation based on your SOQL query, yes, you need this.
Yeah. Then it's mandatory. If condition is mandatory for doing the
scenario to scenario. If you are writing the different DMLs, like just an update, okay. In that case, if it is an update, I would suggest this might be the better. If you say insert, then you have to write this. If it is a delete, this is the better.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
When should we use the Apex, ma'am, or query editor? Query editor is simple, right? It is easy to use.
Query editor is in case if you have a question that I don't know how many records it is going to print. So just to know that how many records are there, in order to know the data, you can execute it. So in order to know some data here, you can execute it. Basically, you wanted to understand the account, or you wanted to understand how many records are having the industry, what is the different industry, who all records have a industry null. Okay, so if you wanted to just understand the data, then you can use the query editor. But if you need a business logic, like somebody at the user interface, or somebody is really asking some data, based on this data, I need to perform certain logic. Based on the whatever the return value is there, based on that, I need to perform some logic. Could be anything. I need to perform some action onto it. Then we have to write the logic into the Apex.
Yeah, okay.
So similarly, we have a case record. So case record also, you can directly pull the data. So let's take this as an assignment. Write an Apex program to fetch all case records from the object and store them into map. Okay, store them into map collection and represent the records on the debug log. Okay. This time the scenario is, it says that get all the case records, but this time store them into map collection. Store them into map collection. Till now what we have done, we have stored into the list collection. We have stored into the list collection. But right now the scenario says that use case is store that into the map collection. Now how we are going to store it into map collection?
Key value pair.
So we have a syntax called map id comma case map new map id comma case. So that means you all know that how the map structure is. So this is my map structure. Inside this map structure, one side we have a keys, other side we have a values. So this is keys and this is values. Now values, I know that I need to store the case record, like a case 1 and case 2, like this I need to store the records. Now key, what do I need a key here? In this scenario, I just need the ID. I just need the ID. So what I'll do is map ID comma case is going to store one record, right? So is going to store one record here in the case map, and another one ID comma case 2 is going to store it here. Now keys, can I take only ID? Can I take any other value here? Basically, you need to take ID, which is a unique. ID should be unique. You cannot take a name here. Sometimes case names are common. That means you might see the case names are duplicate. So don't take the name. Whichever is the unique one, take those as a key. Now in this case, the unique is a ID. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take ID case. ID is my key, case is a values. Now let's go ahead and see this scenario. So let's create a new class. File, new Apex class. This time we are writing the case data helper. Now this is my comments. Description, case data related class. And then I need to write public class static void. Now get all cases. Now for my method also comment, this is my comment, get all case records from database. Perfect. Now first thing is I need to implement the static SOQL query. For static SOQL query, I'll just try to select ID comma. Let's say status comma, we have a subject and there are origin field, right, from case.
Yes.
So this is my static.
Swapna, ID.
Swapna is not ID.
ID. You mentioned is instead of ID.
Okay. Now, this ideally what we used to do is we used to store it into list of case, and then we used to write case list. This is how we have written, right? But instead of this, the use cases says that store it into the map.
Yeah.
So for that, what I'll do is map of ID comma case. Let's say case map equal to new map of ID comma case. Now I need to, this is the list one. This list I need to push it into the case map.
Yes.
If I have to push this into the case map, then first I need to check whether this is empty or not. So case list is empty or not. If it is not empty, then what I'll do is I need to loop through this case list. For loop,
For case column, case list.
so now what I'll do is I need to push everything into the case map. Case map dot put
CS.id.
cs.id, comma, cs.
Yes.
case, because complete record I need to store here. Case is a single record. So complete record I need to store here. I'm storing the ID. Right. So I'm writing almost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Assume that 10 lines of codes I'm writing it. Right. I'm writing the 10 lines of code. If I reduce this already SOQL query, I can write it directly here. Okay, I can write directly this query inside this. Here, then I can remove this logic. I do not need that. Perfect. So for loop case CS colon select ID comma status comma subject comma origin comma case. Perfect. Now here, and then I'm pushing everything into the line by line and pushing all the records into the map. Now I can reduce more of this code. Can I reduce the code more of this? I don't want
Yes.
for 4 lines also, right? So even
Yes.
I don't want this. So in that case, how can I do it? So what you have to do is you can directly put this query inside this. Either you can write like this or else you can write like this. Right? This is one way of writing it. Basically, what you are doing it, you are initializing here. Here, you are initializing it. Initializing the map, then looping through the map. This is looping through the map. Now looping through the SOQL query. And then pushing the data into map. Right? Now, all this initialization, looping through this SOQL query, pushing the data, everything I can write it into the single line of code. Initially, few years back, we used to write like this. First, we used to initialize it, loop through the record, loop through the query, and pushing them into the case map one. And this is still needed. This is still needed in few scenarios. Okay, you cannot write every time this line. It is not possible. Okay, so that means I'm just giving you different ways. How can we implement the code? So the code few developers write like this, the code few developers like this. This is a one way of writing it, and another way of writing this is directly you can initialize your query inside this case map. Inside this case map. So both will give the same output. Now, if I execute this, now let me print here system.debug. Let's say case map dot. Now let me print everything. How can I get a values here? From this map, I wanted to retrieve the values. The values that I have, I wanted to retrieve the values. How can I retrieve the values from the map?
Get value by passing the key.
I wanted to retrieve all the values. Irrespective of the key, I wanted to get all the values.
Reset mode.
Sorry?
Value.
Reset
That's case map dot values.
We have to use the values.
Values.
So when I use the values, it is going to give me all the values, irrespective of the ID, everything it is going to give me that. Right? So similarly, I'm going to print for this. Here we have a case map. So I'll say that here. And say here second. Now I'm going to execute this. This is my class name, debug. And then I'll use the get all cases. Execute the highlighted one. First, it is giving in the same format. Second one is giving the same format. First one is returning 28 rows. Second one is printing the 28 rows. So both the values are same, right? So both of them are returning the same data. There is no difference in handling the data at the backend. So you can implement, SOQL query, whatever you are doing the SOQL query, you can first loop through the SOQL query and then push it to the map. This is one way. Or else, while initializing the map, you can directly write a SOQL query. While initializing the map, you can write a direct SOQL query. Now, how many SOQL queries got executed for this? For the two, it is got executed. Right? So one is this one and another one is this one. Now, I need to loop through this case map. I need to loop through this case map. Now, when we are looping through the list, we know how to loop. Now, how can I loop the map right now? How can I loop the map? What do I need to give in the right side?
Case map dot key set. Key set.
Key set, or else I can use directly values.
Value.
Because these values are storing the case records. It has a case ID, case status, case subject, case origin. Like each record is stored into the case values. So what I can do is case map dot values I can use. Now I can print system dot debug. Let's say that case record details. So each record I'm going to print now, CS. Right, that's it. So let's go ahead and execute it. Execute the highlighted one. Right, each record, it is printing it. This is the first record, second record, third record, like this. Total 28 records it is printing. Now in the list, when we are doing it, directly we were passing the list value, Now here for the map, in this case, I need a case records. I need a case records. So whatever the here case records are there, so I need to print those records. So that's the reason I have used the values. Is anybody who are not clear yet on this map? Okay, so let's move on. Limit class. So limit is basically how many records you wanted to pull it. So this class is used to restrict the number of records to be get returned by the SOQL query. So that means right now what we are doing is I'm pulling all the records. I'm pulling all the records. If I go to the query, so here I'm pulling everything. Whatever case object is containing, all the records I am pulling. Now, in case if I wanted to limit, no, pull me only 2 records. So in that case, we have to use the limit class. In that case, we have to use the limit class. So syntax is limit integer. So example, limit 1, that means limit 1 record. So when you are pulling me the records, just pull me only 1 record. Limit 5, just pull me the 5 records, random 5. There is no order in it. Limit 10, any 50 records, pull me the any 50 records. So let's see one of the use case. Write an Apex program to fetch only 10 account records from the object. Only 10 account records from the object. Now, if you see here, right now, how many we are pulling here? All of them. What does this SOQL query does?
All account
All the
records
It's
we
all
have
of-
to fetch.
All the account records it is going to pull. Now, in case if I say here, limit
Limit for
10.
10. Right? Now, if I say limit 10, what will happen? It is going to give me only 10 records. So get all account records. Click on execute the highlighted one. How many records it is pulling? 10. So that is the limit which I am giving. So that means which 10 it is going to pull? We don't know. That is a random pickup. In the database.com, however the records are stored, maybe it is going to just take a random 10 numbers. We are not specifying first 10 or last 10 or middle 10. We are not specifying anything. So it is going to just randomly get the 10 account records. Okay, homework for limit. Write an Apex program to fetch only 1 user record from the object. You need to write an Apex program to fetch only 1 user record. Write an Apex program to fetch 10 lead records from the object. So those are the 2 homework for the limit. Any questions before I move on? Okay. So
Then all the classes in the query editor we can use in the Apex also.
yes.
Okay.
So when do we use the limit class?
We want to fetch
whenever
limited records.
We want to print limited
Want
number of
only
limited
limited
records we
limited
want, like 10 or 20.
Yeah.
specific number records.
Syntax for limit class.
Limited.
Limit
Starts in table
in
and limit value.
number.
SOQL query limit. Now the last one which we are going to see is where class. Now here whatever we have written here, the logic in the account helper, it just randomly pulling the 10 records. But if I say that in the data table, I have a 50,000 records. Okay, in this 50,000 records, it is pulling me the random 10 records. But I just need the records where the industry equal to bank. Wherever the industry equal to bank is there, get me only those records. That means I'm applying a condition there. I'm applying a condition. How can I apply the condition? By using the where class. Where class is used, add one or more user defined conditions along with the SOQL query to filter the records from the result set. Now, if you have 50,000 records, out of 50,000 records, I'm specifying the system that give me only industry equal to banking account records. Do not give me all the records. Don't give me all the records. So syntax is, you just write a SOQL query. This is how we are writing the SOQL query, as a static SOQL query. In the static SOQL query, once you have written the SOQL query, then you have to write where condition. You need to write where condition. So that means where field name operator equal to. Now in this case, where industry operator is equal to value is banking. In this scenario, whatever we have discussed, where field name is industry, operator is equal to value is banking. Value is banking. So example, we have another condition where rating equal to hot, where industry equal to banking, where annual revenue is greater than 25 lakhs, where location equal to Pune, where email not equal to null. So these are all the conditions which we are applying it while querying the record. So by using the where class, we can add multiple conditions. That means you can add one condition, industry equal to banking. For example, let's say that I need a more condition, like I need rating equal to hot. So whenever I'm pulling the record, it should be, both the conditions should be satisfied. So the record should have an industry equal to banking, as well as the record should be having a rating equal to hot. That means here I need to put an and condition. If I say and condition, multiple conditions can be applied on the where condition. There is no limit how many conditions you can apply it. You can apply multiple conditions. So example, industry, where industry equal to finance and annual revenue is greater than 40 lakhs. So where amount greater than 10 lakhs and stage name equal to close lost. Right, so let's take an example. Write an Apex program to fetch all banking accounts records from the object and represent the records on the debug log. Now, what is the condition here? What is the condition it is asking? What is the condition it is
Industry.
asking?
Industry should be banking.
Industry banking. It is only looking for the industry banking. So in that case, so let's go here. Now instead of limit, let's give where
industry equals to banking.
Industry equal to banking. Let's click on save.
Industry spelling.
Industry spelling.
Now debug, open, execute the highlighted one. Now banking, 3 records are there with the banking, right? So if you have any doubt, really 3 records. So let's take that query. And you can run that in the query editor. Let's go and execute it. Yes, there are only 3 records with the banking. Only 3 records with the banking. So when do we use the where class?
Condition based on the condition.
Condition.
the records from the results.
If we wanted to apply a specific condition while retrieving the query, one condition or more condition, then we use a where class. What is the syntax for where class?
SOQL query,
where
Where
condition.
where
Operator value.
Field
condition.
name.
Right. So homework for where class, write an Apex program to fetch all the class records whose priority is high. In the cases records, there is a field called priority, whose priority is high. Pull all those case records and display into the debug log. Write an Apex program to fetch all the user record whose status is active. In the user object, there is a field called is active. Okay, so there is a field called is active. So if the is active equal to true, then only pull all the user records. Write an Apex program to fetch all the leads record whose annual revenue is more than 1 lakh. More than 1 lakh and whose industry is finance. You have two conditions here. One condition is annual revenue is greater than 1 lakh and whose industry is finance and whose email ID not equal to null. Three conditions you have. How can you write 3 conditions? Now,
Using an AND operator.
Where industry equal to finance and our annual revenue is greater than 10,000 and
Right.
email ID not equal to null.
Yeah, so you need to put 3 conditions. So similar like we have a where condition here, where condition industry equal to banking and rating equal to, let's say, hot. So in case if you have either the record should be matching this or this, in that case you have to use or condition here. If you say that your record either first check whether my record has an industry equal to banking. No, it does not have a banking. Then check the rating equal to hot. Yes, it is a hot. Then give me the records. Either the record has to be matched with the first condition or it has to match with the second condition. Now, if I write a or condition, it is going to give me the more records because I have a records which are rating equal to hot, I guess. So there are 8 records. So before it was 3 records. Now it is giving me the 8 records because there are few records where the rating is hot, but the industry is null. So it is pulling me industry equal to banking or rating equal to hot. Both the records, it is pulling me the data. Write an Apex program to fetch all position records whose status is in progress. In the position record, we have a status field whose status is in progress and maximum budget is more than 1 lakh. Maximum budget is more than 1 lakh. Now the next one is where class for parameterized procedure. Now so far we have seen the where class for non-parameterized. That means we do not have any field here. We do not have any input parameter here. Now, how can I implement where class for parameterized procedure? That means there is an input field. That means upon preparing the queries, we can pass the values to the condition dynamically at runtime. Let's say that here I have a banking. No, I don't want to mention here banking. Pass it whenever you are running it. Pass the value when you are running it. So I'll say indus. So this is a string. This is a string. Now instead of mentioning there, what I'll do is I'll pass that here. Dynamically, I'm passing the value here. But when I pass it, we have to use colon. If you are hard coding it, it has to be equal to string. But when you are passing the value from here, from the parameterized, from any parameter we have, so that means during the runtime, I'm passing the value here. So when you are passing the during the runtime, it has to be equal to colon. It has to be equal to colon, then give the value. That means if I run this, okay, so here I'm giving a banking. If I give a banking, what will happen? Execute the highlighted one. It is going to give me the 8 records. That means I'm passing the value during the runtime. So class is just declared it. So I'm just saying that here I have a parameter. Use the same parameter in the SOQL query. How you are going to define it? Equal to colon indus. So syntax is where field name operator colon value. So where industry equal to colon banking, whatever the value is there. So here instead of banking, I'm passing the value from parameter.
Laptop notidan judu.
So the same thing which I have done right now, industry, I have passed the specified name. So industry, I'm passing the specified name from during the runtime. Is this clear for everybody? For where class, if you are hard coding it, you can directly use equal to. If you are passing the parameter during the runtime, and if you are taking any string value, you have to use the colon here. Clear? Any questions on the where class? Okay. So homework, write an Apex program to fetch all the hiring manager records based on the specified location. You need to pass the location during the runtime for the hiring manager. So you need to implement the Apex class for the hiring manager where condition has to be location, and for that location, you have to pass the parameter from the method. So during the runtime, you need to pass the parameter. Write an Apex program to fetch all opportunity records based on the specified stage. So you need to implement the Apex class inside that method. The method has to write the static SOQL query to pull all the opportunities where condition is on the stage name. This stage name you need to pass it during the runtime, and close date also you need to pass it. Close date also you need to pass it. So it's an and condition, stage name and close date. Third one is write an Apex program to fetch all campaign records based on the specified type. So when you are writing the SOQL query, you have a field called type. So this type is value is passed dynamically. That means during the runtime, you are passing the value per type. And status. Both you are passing type and status. Write an Apex program to fetch all the group records. So we have a group object. Get all the group records based on the specified type at runtime. So in the group, we have a type field. So this type field value has to be passed during the runtime. So syntax for where class for parameterized procedure.
Method.
Operator call.
What is the syntax for where?
First,
Parameter
parameterize method.
where equals to
Parameter.
parameter.
One parameter what we pass we have to give.
Okay, can you repeat again? What is the syntax for where class?
Where
We will write a SOQL query.
SQL query.
Where
Where?
equals
Where rating equal to
Field name.
column
condition.
name,
Field name.
column name equal to sorry, column name colon
column name,
stage colon
Equal to
stage name.
parameter from construct
method.
Right. So this is the one. So conclusion, what did we learn so far?
SQL,
SOQL, static
SOQL,
SOQL, dynamic
governor limits, and queries, development,
Apex program by using Apex.
whatever runtimes.
static query, dynamic queries.
Right. So invoking the Apex program, static SOQL, dynamic SOQL, use case, static, limit, where class, non-parameterized, parameterized procedure. Okay, so the trial head, today we have especially related to the SOQL query. So I'll just bring you the SOQL query trial heads. So these are the SOQL query trial heads. All of them are SOQL, Apex database, SOQL, and developer console, Apex and SOQL programming, SOQL for admin. So these all are for SOQL. Okay, so that's all for today.